So this video is going to be about the pros and cons of Japan. I'm going to be talking about what I loved, what I didn't like, and I'm just going to give everyone a heads up that's planning to go to Japan of what to expect when you go there. Okay, so starting the video off on a positive note, I'm going to be talking about the things that I loved about Japan as a tourist. Obviously, I haven't lived in Japan long enough to give it a full breakdown of what I think the country is actually like. However, as a tourist that was there for about 2 to 3 weeks, I kind of have a rough idea of what you can expect when you go there. So yeah, this video is just going to be based off my point of view of how I found it as a tourist. Okay, now to start the video off on a positive note, I'm going to be talking about the things that I loved about Japan. First thing is first is how cheap everything is in Japan. Shopping and public transport is probably the cheapest in Japan compared to a lot of places in the world. Food wise, it wasn't really that cheap. I feel like food wise it's cheap, but like not super cheap. For me, I found food to be very expensive because I am Muslim and I do have like strict dietary requirements. So I had to almost pay 2 to 3 times the price of what it would cost for a local person in Japan. However, trains and shopping is very, very cheap in Japan. I was only spending about $5 a day on the train, and I was probably spending at least 1 or 2 hours on the train each day going to different places. So trains are definitely very, very cheap, and shopping is very good as well. I bought some really nice clothes for a very, very good price as well. Another thing that I loved about Japan is how close and convenient everything is. Japan is all about convenience. Like, if you love convenient and you want things to be very close and very convenient, this is the best place to be. For example, if you're craving food, instead of driving 20 to 30 minutes to a local restaurant to buy food, you can literally just walk a few minutes and you can buy food right away, because there's like a 7-Eleven in like every single corner in Japan. Like, you don't even have to worry about taking a long commute to buy food or whatever. And another thing I loved about Japan is how convenient the public transportation system is as well. You know, you don't have to walk long distances to find train stations. Like, there's literally a train station every few minutes away from you. So, you know, if you need to get to places quickly, you don't have to worry about having to walk a long distance to catch a specific train. You can literally catch any train station and it'll take you to the location that you need to go. It's honestly amazing how good the public transportation is, because for a population of 13 million people in Tokyo, they are managing it very, very well. Another thing that I really loved about Japan is the food quality. The food quality is absolutely amazing. Like, when you eat food in Japan, you never feel tired, you never feel lethargic, you're always full of energy, and you always feel really good. Their food is like not processed at all. It's mainly made out of like natural good ingredients, so when you eat it you feel really good. And I'm sure you've heard of the saying, you are what you eat, so it shouldn't come as a surprise of why Japanese food is so good. During the whole time I was there, I was eating healthy all the time and I felt so good. Like, takeouts literally are impossible to find in Japan. Like, no one eats takeouts. Everyone's eating very healthy food, and that explains why everyone is so fit and so in shape. That's simply because the food they eat is always so healthy. And in saying that, there are so many different food options to pick from as well in Japan. You will never get bored of eating food here because there's always something new to try. And there is just so much to try that you kind of run out of ideas of what you want to eat, honestly. Like, it's that cool. And another thing that I really love about Japan is the history it has. You know, obviously Japan used to be the land of the samurais. It has a lot of rich history. A lot of great innovation ideas have come from Japan, and there's just a lot of history and culture in the country. What I loved the most about Japan was Kyoto. It was really nice to see all the temples and the shrines and the history behind all of it. I found it very cool, and it is definitely one of the highlights of my trip, and it's something that I recommend everyone tries when they go to Japan, because you're not really getting that full Japan experience if you're only spending your whole time in Tokyo. And the last thing I loved about Japan was the people, man. The people in Japan are so kind and so amazing and so polite. I swear you never come across a mean Japanese person. Like, during the whole time I was there, I did not have one bad interaction with a Japanese person. Like, they're all very kind and very friendly, and they're very welcoming as well. It's almost like they're really happy to have you in their country. They treat foreigners pretty well. And yeah, that's something I really love about Japanese culture, is they take a lot of honor, and they have a lot of honor and a lot of pride. So, you know, they don't want to look bad in front of tourists, in front of others. So they respect you a lot and they treat you good, and you know, you almost feel like royalty when you're there. Okay, now moving on to the cons list, I'm going to be talking about the things that I did not like about Japan. Okay, obviously there is no such thing as a perfect country. You know, every country has its flaws, and Japan does have it too. And it's actually got more flaws than what you would expect. The first thing I did not like about Japan was the amount of steps you have to take to get to places. Now, as a reasonably fit person, I shouldn't be complaining about doing too many steps in one day. However, believe it or not, even for a person like me, it was actually very tiring. By the time I'd get back to the hotel, my feet would be really sore, my back would be hurting. It got so bad to the point that I had to go get a foot massage after like my third day in Japan because my feet were absolutely aching. And keep in mind, I was wearing very comfortable shoes as well. So, in Japan, you're gonna be doing at least 20 to 30,000 steps a day, and this is something I did not really enjoy. I like to sit down and chill out quite a lot, so not being able to do that was pretty tiresome. So that is one thing to keep in mind. If you do have a trip coming up to Japan, please make sure you're in good shape. Otherwise, you will not enjoy this trip. Okay, please make sure that you're in good shape because, it's you got to be fit to go around in this country because trust me, there's a lot of uphill, a lot of downhill, a lot of stairs, and a whole lot of steps as well. So, yeah, I don't recommend if you're out of shape. So get in shape before you go. Another thing that I didn't like about Japan was having to pay for cash for almost everything. After a long day of walking and shopping, you feel really tired, so it does become a pretty big hassle. Yeah, so having to go to an ATM to cash out and then having to pay the restaurant cash to get food and stuff like that was definitely a bit problematic because sometimes when you're in a rush and you got to get to places, like the last thing that's on your mind is going to the ATM and cashing out. And obviously, there would be times where I'd forget to cash out, and it would just be really annoying having to go to an ATM to cash money out to go buy food because sometimes you just don't have the time and you just want to quickly be in and out of somewhere. So I did find that to be a bit of a hassle. So yeah, that was a bit annoying, but it wasn't a major problem for me. Another thing that I did not like about Japan was the small, tiny hotel rooms. Now, for me, it wasn't too bad because I'm a 5'8" guy. Like, I'm not the biggest guy. I can get by in a small hotel room. But believe it or not, even for a guy my size, I found it very small. So if you are a tall individual, say you're like 6 foot plus, bro, it's gonna feel like you're in a dwarf house. Like, you're gonna feel like a 7-footer in these hotel rooms. Like your feet would be sticking out from the edge of the bed, and going to the shower will be a nightmare for you as well because you will literally have to squat down. Okay, like I'm 5'8", and like the shower head was like a few inches above my head. It was that bad. So that's one thing I didn't really like about Japan. It's that everything is really small there. Like even the portion sizes, like the food portion sizes, is really small. I'm a big eater, and as Kiwis, you love to eat a lot of food. We're big eaters. So, like having like lunch, dinner, whatever would never really fill me up in any restaurants in Japan because it just isn't enough food. Like even with a large size portion, like it just still wasn't enough because Japanese people aren't big eaters. So that was one thing I didn't enjoy. It's that everything is really small. Like even shirt sizes as well. Like, I was buying a large size shirt and I'm 5'8". So if you're like a big guy or a big girl, like you're gonna have a really tough time shopping in Japan because everything is very small. Like bathrooms are small, clothes are small, bedrooms are small. So if you're above average size individual, you're gonna have a hard time here. You're going to have a hard time in Japan for sure. Yeah, and the last thing that I did not like about Japan was that there is nowhere to sit and you have to carry a plastic bag everywhere you go. This can become a really big hassle because, having to carry a plastic bag with you with like rubbish for 30,000 steps a day in the heat is definitely not fun. Yeah, I don't really like having to carry a plastic bag around with me all the time because I don't have rubbish bins in Japan, which kind of does get annoying. And not being able to sit anywhere was also a bit annoying because sometimes when you're walking around a lot, you want to sit down and just have a quick breather. You want to just chill out for a bit, And not being able to do that after a long day of walking was a bit annoying. That was starting to get on my nerves a little bit, but I still managed to get through in the end, and it was all good. But that's one thing I really did not like. And the last thing was over-tourism in Japan. As a tourist myself, I was getting annoyed with all the tourists. I can just imagine how the locals feel. There are so many tourists in Japan. I think they get like 30 to 40 million tourists here or something. So they get a lot of tourists. And going to certain places is actually becoming very, very annoying because I was just getting so annoyed with all the tourists. So if you do go to Japan, try not to go during a very busy time because you will not enjoy the trip at all. And yeah, that's pretty much my list of everything that I loved and hated about Japan. I hope this list helps you, and I hope you have a good idea of what to expect when you go to Japan. If you do want to see another breakdown of my Japan trip and you want to know more, make sure to like and comment, and I'll make sure to make another video of Japan of the best things to do if you're going there. Thanks for watching, and peace.